Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Thursday Thought. Today is Thursday, June the 12th, 2025. And I thought today I'd start by just sharing with you an experience that I had this week. Ever since coming to St. Mary's, I've been meaning to get around to transferring financial matters to a different bank because the bank I normally use doesn't have a branch here. So I tackled that this week, and if you've ever tried to go through systems where you had to, try to do everything online, they want you to do everything online now, and contacting some government departments, which have several extensions. So it took almost a whole morning to complete the transactions. And it reminded me of a poem that I had composed years ago, just when computers were coming into their own. And so I'm going to start by sharing that with you. I'm happy to say that I'm not quite as technophobic as I was back then, but there's certain things in this poem that still resonate, so I hope you enjoy it. It's called To Cancel, Press Star. I wonder to where we're all rushing, I thought, with the phone cradled close to my cheek. I listened as several options were given that only a recording would speak. For this service, press 1. For that one, press 2. But nothing applied to me. I ran out of chances. The only thing left was to hear the menu repeat. But my appetite faded. I resigned my intent and put the phone back in its place. This is progress, I thought. Get with the plan. Look technology right in the face. But the monster I saw made me cringe in despair and fear for the whole human race. I saw in its eyes a reflection of man, as a creature who once had a heart, transformed over time to a type of machine with no memory for music or art. If ever mankind needed poets, it's now, to write with an urgent design on the World Wide Web that the human touch must sift through the seeds of the mind. And I think I'm very glad to have grown up in a small community where the human touch was felt everywhere by neighborhood watch and neighbors knowing your name and maybe some circumstances you'd rather they didn't know, but the wonderful support from a small community. And I remember my grandfather especially staying with us after he retired. I've mentioned him in the last couple Thursday Thoughts, if you've been following along, and I could remember him walking us through the streets of Ceylon, which really is just comprised of basically a little flat area, a very steep hill, another flat area across the railway tracks that still existed at that time, up another hill to our little one-room school. And in that one-room school, I was very privileged to have the same teacher for 7 years. And one day she suggested to us, and I think I was in grade 3, that we write a little story. So I believe mine was about a chipmunk. And she seemed very excited about that story, and she said, I want you to take this home and show it to your family tonight. So of course I was very proud, and I raced home, and as I burst in the door I realized that my mother was in the process of concluding a ladies' aid meeting I had forgotten about. But the ladies were just socializing, so they encouraged me to read my story. And I can still remember their kindness, their support, their clapping. And it was like this light bulb went off in my little mind that, oh my goodness, maybe this is part of who I am. Maybe this is something I can do. And so I'm really grateful for that awakening because it really was the beginning of my interest in writing. And after Mrs. Duncan left, she was the teacher I had for 7 years, and I was so pleased to be able to recite poetry for her at her 90th birthday party many years later. But when she left our school, we had a rotation of teachers, and one of them was an individual named Mark Partridge. And I didn't realize this at the time, But she was very interested in poetry, and I discovered this later on in life, probably at the bowling alley that my brother conducted, because they used to come there to play on teams, and they were particularly entranced with my niece, Nancy. But I'm sure it was there where I got to know her better and become friends with her. And she was a good poet and had poetry published in anthologies as well. But one of the things that disturbed Mrs. Partridge over the years was the fact that I was still single. And so she took it upon herself to be a matchmaker. And I remember her calling one day and saying, "Sharon, I have the perfect man for you to meet, and I'm going to arrange it. And I want you to have a nice homemade pie ready for him when he arrives." And with that, I'm sure I burst out laughing, because those of you who know me personally will know that I avoid the kitchen at every opportunity. I find it a dangerous place, full of fire and knives, and it's just not my jam, as they say. So I could not imagine a greater misrepresentation of what I could offer in a relationship than appearing out of nowhere with a pie. But the irony of that, as I went out to work in the garden, prompted this poem called Choices. I meant to bake a pie today, but the sunshine called my name, saying, "Meet me at the water's edge. I know a great old game, where I throw down light as diamonds that play tag across the bay, and you marvel at the pretty stones that glitter as I play." I meant to bake a pie today, but the garden beckoned me to a secret world where soft green leaves implored my eyes to see each flower's summer majesty, where mysteries abound, with the hint of changes soon to come upon their hallowed ground. I meant to bake a pie today, but the cats climbed up to say, "A little more attention, please. Remember, seize the day." Their knowing eyes watched closely as the precious moments flee, for soon my work will claim again its own priority. I meant to bake a pie today, but the berries seemed to say, "We look just fine on ice cream, thanks. Why bury us away between blankets made of pastry, when our garnet juice should be cascading down vanilla slopes to pools of ecstasy?" I meant to bake a pie today, but the moment slipped away through the hourglass of memory to the realm of yesterday. So if you plan to visit me, you really ought to know there'll be no homemade goodies to set your mouth aglow. But you will find my heart at peace from beating to a drummer who knows how quickly thoughts get lost on the misty path of summer. So as we head off down that path, may we just always remember how important our support is to other people, and especially children. But everybody needs encouragement, and it can often be something that really awakens in an individual an awareness of their unique potential. So I hope we remember that in the week ahead, and that you will feel you want to come back next week. Until then, have a great time. Bye for now.